So Aaron, you were involved in MFM from the very beginning.
Almost the very beginning, right? Right after the first, I think it was the first MFM conference. You know, Amy and Lars and Andy were hiring research assistants, and that was my first year in the PhD program. And I was one of Lars's students even then, and I applied and you know, so I was a paid hourly employee of the MFM, kind of starting in my first year.
Great.
So.
And this has then shaped also your future research interest in some way?
You know, I always wanted to study macrofinance. I was always interested in quantitative macro models, and so that's why I was drawn to the MFM in the first place. And I actually remember a very early conversation with Lars. When I started, I was a little bit worried about taking the job because I also wanted to get the fellowship. I was involved early in sort of the logistics of it. A lot of the, you know, I worked a lot on the website, actually writing synopses of the sessions and of the comments. And then I was awarded the fellowship. You know, I was not an early fellowship awardee because I wasn't ready yet, but sort of a later fellowship awardee.
Which year did you?
I think it was 2015.
2015. Oh yeah, okay. Then even a year after me. I think I got the fellowship 2014. Yeah. I already found the writing of the proposal incredibly useful to apply and to. I knew the questions that MFM was about, like thinking about financial markets, thinking about systemic risk, thinking about the connection to the macroeconomy.
Yeah.
I knew these were the questions that I wanted to think about, but to narrow it down, writing the proposal, applying was useful and was for me really the starting point of my dissertation then.
Yeah, I agree. It's not easy to have an idea. But it's much easier to have an idea than to actually write an idea down on paper in a way that makes sense, that could actually convince somebody that you've got something that you can move forward with. And so I agree. Writing the proposal was also helpful for me. It was helpful for me, and this was maybe cheating a little bit as my position where I was within the MFM. I could look at other people's proposals, and so that was very helpful to see a whole range of ideas, both successful and unsuccessful proposals. And helped me in writing my own, and I think that was very useful, even for writing proposals beyond the MFM.
And I guess that seeing other ideas, seeing what other PhD students and also researchers are working on, this continued then in the MFM meetings. No,
I being able to see both the graduate students and the awardees presenting their research, as well as the sort of more seasoned participants and professors, and seeing all of that. I mean, I haven't gone to all the MFM meetings, unfortunately, but I've gone to many of them, and they've been extraordinarily helpful for that. Yep. Just get exposure to current research and what people are working on. I think it's actually one of the unique things about the MFM is the way it's not just the topic area in macrofinance and systemic risk and quantitative models, but the fact that you have together in one conference, you know, even young but also advanced graduate students, young faculty, and older faculty, and regulators and practitioners all together. I don't know of any other venue where you get that distribution across people at different points in their career. And I think, especially for students, it's very valuable. Yeah. It's very valuable for them to participate, and for me, when I was doing it, to participate as a peer with people who are in a very different stage of their career, and because you need to do that once you graduate, that's who you will become. And so I think it's extremely valuable. And there are conferences aimed at young faculty, but I don't know of conferences that bring together young faculty and students and older faculty all at once. I think it's unique.
And the money was useful for you?
Oh yes, of course, yes. So you know, for me, and you may have had this experience as well. The standard time frame is 5 years for finishing a PhD, but most programs really only guarantee you funding for 4, and then typically people take 6. So there's a need pretty early on to figure out where the money is going to come from. And so the MFM allowed me to not worry about that as much, almost at all. Not just, you know, so I could eat, which is important, but also for financing some data purchases that went into my dissertation, which were not cheap. So both of those things were really important for me, and the MFM kind of made that sort of smooth sailing, so that I could concentrate a lot more on my research, and that was tremendously helpful.
Yeah, there was this same for me, that both in giving me time to focus on my dissertation, and also in buying computational resources. And
I've met a lot of people across all the MFM conferences that I've attended, who have sparked my research interest in certain areas, and I think that's enormously helpful to young faculty trying to get started, to get more people to bounce ideas off of, and to meet and to understand their research and how it can affect yours. And yeah, it's like you said, there's a community of people that you see that person, they were an MFM person too. And so it's not just your classmates in the school where you come from, but from all schools all around. And I think that's another thing that's unique about the MFM, is that it funds people all over the U.S. and I think internationally
even
as
Europe,
well.
Exactly. Yeah, and the connection is not by university, not by kind of school, but it's really by the common interest in the research question. And the methodologies across the students are very different. So I've actually learned a lot on how the same questions are approached very differently across schools, across fields.
One of the reasons I went into economics and finance in the first place is I wanted to be active in policy making and making policy better. So I was a research assistant at the Boston Fed for 3 years. I was a fellow at the Chicago Fed right after my PhD. And so one of the projects that came out of my time at the Chicago Fed is about kind of the term structure of interest rates and how the repo special market, or the bilateral repo market, affects interest rates, and how monetary policy can affect the term structure of interest rates through the repo market. And so that's work that I'm doing in conjunction with an economist at Chicago Fed, and I think that's first order for understanding one of the aspects of the financial crisis, and how monetary policy works in these markets going forward. And then I have another project with like I said, another MFM awardee, which is about bank capital regulation, and that's I think that was a very hot topic right after the financial crisis. Kind of going back to what Lars said, I don't think we've solved that problem. I think that I think it's not as hot a topic anymore. Maybe in academic circles, I think policymakers still have no idea what the right answer is, or even how to get the right answer. So I think it's still a really interesting area of research, and it's super pertinent, I think.
Aaron and I both entered the PhD program at a time when, right after the financial crisis, I kind of clarified that financial markets play a central role, not only for finance, but for the real economy. Yeah. And it was kind of to me, it was a very natural a field of interest and to think about this. And I study similar questions to Aaron, like which thinking about how is monetary policy transmitted through financial markets, because also these actions of the central bank during the financial crisis and the years after kind of showed that how monetary policy is implemented is really through the interaction of the central bank with financial markets, with financial institutions, and how the central bank can actually change interest rates. Practitioners seem to have some intuitive understanding of it. I think coming into the financial crisis, economists had very little understanding of these questions, and still
they still don't.
And so this remains a very interesting field, and I hope that then our research will one day help good policy making.